You will never learn and grow. You will never learn or grow as much as when you trade, period. Like when you teach, you're having to like internalize everything you're teaching. And it solidifies things a lot. So it can help us get a fresher perspective on what we're doing and do a better job of doing our job. And I think I might just need to, oh, no, I have a notification that popped up. We are being recorded. There we go. All right. So a little bit about me. So I'm the QA practice manager at SGG Consulting. SGG is really good at like weird nomenclature. Practice manager literally just means our QA practice, like all our QA people. Because it's not just our dev practice. We've got Java practice, .NET practice. We've got a bunch of different stuff that we do. So I get to kind of be a mentor on steroids. I do daily consulting work for QA, but I also help to train and oversee and direct all the rest of our QAs. So it's been a lot of fun. Before that, I founded the boot camp, the QA boot camp for Dev Mountain. And that was a blast. I was there for several years, iterated on the curriculum several times, and learned a boatload. So QA is fun. I fell into QA. I did not expect to like it. I literally told my hiring manager in my interview, like, do not use me as an example for what to do in an interview. I literally told them, I'm going to school to be a developer. I graduate in a year. I'm planning on going into development. Like, I'm not committing to more than a year. And hopefully it'd be here at this company, but I'm not committing. Like, I had to have been his second choice because it was like 4 or 5 weeks before I heard back from them at all. Like I got ghosted, and then they called me in. So I'm glad I got the chance. And so I had a blast over it. This was at Spillman Technologies, like public safety software and all kinds of stuff. So I am easily distracted. That is 100% legit. I have ADHD. And my meds are wearing off. So if I tangent, it's on you to like reel me back in, or not ask me too many questions that go off on crazy tangents, because I will engage. But I'm an easily distracted hobbyist. Spare time, like I will print and paint like 3D tabletop minis, or I'll bake, or I'll code, or I'll read, or and it goes in like a month or 2 sprints. It's pretty fun, but. I'm also known as Dink the Bard in my weekly Pathfinder games, so that's a lot of fun. So a little bit about me, and now into what we're actually talking about. Like, why is talking about cultivating our teammates and ourselves, like, why is this important? Why is it important to talk about? It's too easy to get distracted. We all have different things that we have to get done. Like we have our key deliverables, we have our deadlines that we need to get something done by. And it's really easy to, oh, this is the important thing I need to push on, and everything else slides onto the wayside. It's also really easy to go, ooh, shiny. And there's this cool process over here that's not a mentally taxing, hard to figure out thing like, how do we train ourselves and our people better? Or how do we grow? That can be hard. It's easy to get distracted. Like this literally happened to me more than once in my first semester of college in my computer science class. As a computer science major, I dropped that and went into humanities and history, and I came this close to my history degree and ended up going back to computer science. So it was interesting. But more than once in that computer science class, I would close my eyes and look down. My notebook has rows and rows of scribbles, and the board has everything. And yes, it was in the time that my computer science lectures were the lecturer writing on a whiteboard. That was fun. So it's too easy to get distracted. Like I just spent forever on that slide, right? So success is hard for us to find by ourselves. We want to figure stuff out on our own all the time. We want to do it on our own all the time. Our new hires, our teammates, they want to do it all on their own, but it's hard. And when we've got somebody else to bounce ideas off of, it works. When we were at Dev Mountain, we literally had a cupboard full of rubber ducks to hand somebody a rubber duck. And it's like, talk your ideas out, talk to the rubber duck, just get it out there, and things will flow. It's like, you got to be freaking kidding. Nope, it totally works. If you've never done that, find like your bobblehead on your desk or something like that. Just having something, even not a person for the true introverts, to bounce their ideas off of is great. It's helpful. But if it's another person, you get feedback, and we can help each other out. Like having a good mentor, having a good lead, having somebody that you can count on that's not going to go, oh, that's a stupid idea. Why would you do that? Like, but help you out. They might say, oh, come on, that's a dumb idea, but you're on the right track. Let's go look at this. Like, have the right rapport with somebody. Really, at the end of the day, you want to be Ms. Frizzle. I'm not even kidding. Like, I grew up on Magic School Bus. I love Ms. Frizzle. Like, take chances, make mistakes, get messy. It's legit. That's what we should be doing. Like, we should be willing to try out new things. We should be willing to try. Not make assumptions, jump to conclusions, but keep trying things out. Keep asking those questions, and we can keep improving. And we need to be encouraging ourselves and those around us to do that too. I was absolutely terrified in my first QA job. It was, I told you, it was public safety software. Like, if you've been pulled over for speeding in the state of Utah, it was probably the software that I was working on. I got pulled over twice while I was working on that software. Got me into one ticket and out of another, because like most software, it was a love-hate relationship, right? But when I was new, and I did not know what I was doing, but we were short-staffed, and so I was the sole QA over that product. And we had some legacy code, which I didn't know why it was important to care that it was legacy code and was different and fragile, but we had some legacy code from, I kid you not, the 80s. And there was an elderly couple in one state and a mom with her minivan full of kids in another state. The police ran their plates and they came back stolen and flagged armed and dangerous, because there was a stack that, it was a stack overflow. Those two police agencies were the two busiest, the two largest clients that we had. And we'd never had anybody else overflow this stack that had been, the size was determined back in the 80s. And so, we lost just in one of the suits. I never heard about the other one. Well, we settled out of court because it was our bad, but $750,000 in one of them. And this was my first QA job. I was not making, I'm still not making anywhere close to enough to pay that off in any kind of amount of time. So I'm terrified. My boss is on vacation. Nobody had ever told me, you're pushing as hard as you can, you're being reasonable, you're engaging, you're good. This is everybody owns QA. Nobody had ever told me that. Until my boss got back, we had our first one-on-one, and then I'm like almost in tears with relief when he's like, oh, you're good. Like, don't even worry about it. It happens. You've got tests in place for that now, right? Oh yeah, we've got tests. You fixed it. Yeah, the team fixed it. Then you're good. And just was like, cost of doing business. This happens when you have legacy code. I'm like, I had nobody to talk to about this, because even him and I didn't have that kind of relationship. So for some people who are like easily stressed and don't have support at home that was encouraging them to go anyway and hope for the best, like I've had some friends who have quit to avoid those kinds of conversations because they didn't know any better. It's like after the fact, and they're like, dude, no, talk to somebody. So be their Ms. Frizzle. Be everybody's Ms. Frizzle. Like, know that this is okay. Have those conversations. Obviously, try not to let a bug into production that's going to cost your company $750,000. Don't do that if you can avoid it. But life happens. So at the end of the day, if you forget everything else that we talk about, be Ms. Frizzle. So, all right. So for some of you guys, and everybody who's here, I keep looking out at the faces I see because human nature, right? Everybody who's online or out here, like, think about it. Who is a mentor that you loved, like you really clicked with, somebody who got you going in QA or in anything really, but we are here to talk about software QAs. Like, who got you into it? Can you think of somebody that was a solid mentor, like a good example? Carlos? Yeah? No, like in all seriousness, I know that several of my old students feel exactly the same way. Like Carlos was engaging. Well, I say was, because we haven't seen each other face to face in 2 years, but hey, You know, Carlos has always been engaging and willing to hear people out, willing to try new ideas. He brought my students on to test his app, like in a real testing environment, and it's something no other companies were engaging with me on at the time. And so it was like, oh, thank you. And it got them all excited because he's sitting and talking and building up QA, building up their confidence. Yeah, great mentor, great example. So think about somebody that you know that was a great mentor to you, and you can emulate them. For me, it wasn't only Ms Frizzle, but she's still one of the best. So our goal tonight, we want everybody to be part of the team. We want to learn to be a good mentor and to discover or rediscover your passion for QA. And I know it can be both, because some people are in QA not to be in QA. I told you, I went into QA to get into software. I hire people still that tell me, long-term, I don't want to be in QA. It's all right. But, and I'm willing to work hard, and I can see that they're willing to work hard. And that's okay, that's totally fine. But if you're passionate about something, it's gonna get 10 times easier, even if you're more passionate about something else. Andy Warhol said, you need to let the little things that would ordinarily bore you suddenly thrill you. And while I look at Andy Warhol's art, and honestly, it's not really my thing, it's a good example of somebody that took completely ordinary things, daisies and Campbell's soup cans, and turned them into something new, something different perspective. And I did really well for it. I want to say it was one of these paintings right here that sold for like 50, 60 million. Of course, Andy Warhol lived, in the 40s and 50s and died in the 60s. So it's one of those artists are worth more after they die. True. But he found something normal and turned it into something interesting, something exciting. So how can we help that out? Like, how can we push on that and make these things happen, whether it's for ourselves or a teammate? So let's talk about it. If you've got a first-time QA, or think about when you were first starting as QA, or what you're hoping for if you're trying to get into QA, like, what do you think you can do? Do any of these things sound familiar? Companies that are like, oh, we never even thought about onboarding. I had brand new students who had never done any professional QA, brand new graduated students that got hired on, and they were hired on by a company that had no idea what to do with QA. They were the first QAs there. And I told them when they told me, I'm like, this is going to be interesting for you. Hit me if you have questions. And it was some of them were good experiences, some of them were not so good experiences. I was literally given a link to a networked drive with a bunch of videos and PDFs, and told to go through the instructional videos and the how-to manuals for the software. And that was going to be my first 2 weeks of training. I had never in my life fallen asleep at work before, never. And I fell asleep twice in my first week at that company, and nobody cared. I missed stand-up. I was like at the first cubicle in the area. Everyone walks by, nobody woke me up. I'm like, seriously, guys? But it was a laid back company, and so I knew that at that point. That was nice, but it's not good stuff. Like, what are some struggles you guys have had with onboarding? Or like starting out with a company as QA, like brand new QA? Anybody online? You guys can seriously feel free to unmute and just say something. Oh, we got
hello.
Ooh,
oh, hey,
sweet.
That's cool. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so I have a background not in QA, but my first QA job, like a lot of the lingo and processes were completely alien. But I found out that like it related to a lot of the stuff I had done in my previous jobs. So yeah, that took me a little while.
Cool. So yeah, we do have a totally different dictionary for QA. Well, for software development in general. I'd been in customer service and tech support before. Like I literally, if any of you know West Valley, the Verizon Wireless call center, I went from there about 200 yards across the golf course to Spillman, where I had my first QA gig. And yeah, I had no clue what they were talking about for a lot of it, especially because I thought I'd know more because I was in my third year of computer science. And it's still over my head. So I'm with you there. But old knowledge can transfer. And if you guys can tap into that, you know somebody's background. Okay, I'm hiring you because you were really good at XYZ. which isn't software, isn't QA. How can I bridge that gap? Maybe that can be something that can help out. Like I know people who hire specifically backgrounds that are not related to software. Like teachers make excellent QAs. You know, for example, just lots of different things. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on? Sweet. Short little toss.
One of the biggest pain points companies have is that onboarding process. And as a new employee anywhere, you can contribute so much there. I just keep a running list anytime I started a new company of like, we need documentation around this. Here are the things I had to request access to that I really should have had access to from day one. I shouldn't be waiting a week for this. And then turning that list into documentation or giving it to your manager so they can action that goes so far and makes you look really good from day one doing that.
Absolutely.
It's very helpful.
No, you build all kinds of trust because you're not wasting their time. You're engaging. You're being proactive. Got my first promotion because I was one of the proactive people in meetings. I mean, he's like, you talk more than anybody else. Like you have not. Yes, I know I tangent, but he's like, you have more questions than almost anybody else in here. And I'm like, but I'm like brand new still. I'm less than a year in QA, and you want me to be a lead? You engage, period, bar none. Like that's what I need. Okay, and it worked out. And you're actually stealing my thunder a little bit too. I've got a quote from all good. Steve Cohen that'll pop up here in a minute. He's a hedge fund manager, owner of the Mets, and one of the biggest things he says is onboarding is more about what you can learn from your new employee than what your new employee can learn from you. I'm totally. I just lost the word. Rewording that, paraphrasing. There we go. Okay, that's actually a good teaching opportunity if you ever have to train people. I'm forgetting the word, but I can give you everything around it. You better be able to come up with the word because I know you taught it, and I know I taught it to you. So, now he was talking about like onboarding processes, but for us in QA, there's even more that we can learn from our new hires. So if you're bringing in somebody new, here's a list of no-nos. Like, do not do these things. All self-guided, book learning, like letting somebody get bored is a great way to lose engagement forever, especially if they're a brand new to QA. If they're bored, if they're not learning and pushing and growing, they probably are not going to be very enthusiastic about sticking around very long or doing more than the bare minimum. And don't wait on them, because if they are a new person to software and to QA, they're probably not super confident to put themselves out there and ask you questions and bring up problems. Like, start the discussion. That's all I'm saying. Like, get in front of it. And don't leave anybody in isolation, because if you don't know where to go with your questions, with your problems, with your concerns, whatever, that's a problem. Like, do not leave them to hang out on their own and guess who they should be going to. Instead, tell them why you're doing everything you're doing. Like, whether it's just explaining the language or why your processes work the way that they do, or the bigger picture, how all these okay, your team is this team. Here's how you fit into the bigger infrastructure of our company. Even if they're separate applications, there's still interactions going on all the time. We know that. Like, we who have been in QA and have a little more experience, we know that. Our new people might not be able to spot those things as easily as we do. And if you know why, it's a lot easier to ask questions and it's a lot easier to answer questions. When you give somebody context, they don't feel like an idiot, like totally making things up as they go to try and figure this stuff out. They have enough context to go, okay, I have a valuable question, right? Ask them questions to see how they're feeling about things, sure. To see if they're tracking what you're saying, sure. But one of the best things that you can do is get them hands-on. And so you're asking them questions about, what do you think of the software? Where do you think the problems are? What do you think of how we're testing this? And as part of that, get them into the team right away. Like, don't have them sitting quietly by themselves doing things that you're handing to them, supporting them with, but they're not engaging with the rest of the team. Like, you want to get people as engrossed in this as quickly as possible. And that's honestly anything, not just QA, but especially to me, it seems like especially in QA. Because if you do this wrong, if you do our work wrong, it can be a drag, it can be a grind, it can be really difficult. It can be those things sometimes when you're doing it right, but especially if we're leaving people alone and not helping them move on. And so if you're not getting these things as a new hire, that's some of that important feedback that you should be giving to your team. Hey, I really want to be doing this. I really want to be pushing. I was bad at pushing at a lot of stuff, but I got so bored of running the same tests over and over every day that I just started writing my own tests for new features that I saw were coming up without asking my QA lead. And at first she was irritated with me, but then she read the tests and went, okay, well, here's what you need to fix and keep going. It's like, thank you. Oh my gosh. Because running the same test that took 45 minutes for one test 8 times a day, I wish I was exaggerating. So, all right. And give people feedback and variety. Just like me, like I sat there that week that my boss was on vacation and I knew about the $750,000 bug. I'm sitting in limbo. I was getting almost jacked done. Like I almost talked myself out of a job, basically. I was so worried because he was gone and there were no leads. Like there was no middle structure, there were no seniors, I had nobody that I felt comfortable talking to. So don't leave people in that. Get proactive, get in front of them. So some stuff, and I just pulled these out from I actually pulled these ones out because these were fantastic ideas from when we talked about onboarding with the Ministry of Testing. All of these things here, we've talked about a lot of them, but all of these things here can really help to engage and get new staff members going. And this is whether they are new to QA, new to your company, whatever. But having some solid docs so people can answer their own questions, like how many times, if you're a manual tester, but especially if you're in automation, how many times do you Google something and you want to hit Google for an hour or two sometimes before you go bug somebody else and get them context swapped? And it's gratifying to find your own solutions. Give your new hires a way that they can do the same thing. Give your new QAs a way that they can do that. Peer mentors, real work, not just make work, stuff that matters, or even if it's just running the same manual tests over and over. Make sure they know why and how they are benefiting and how they're contributing. Incentives, though, like they are more powerful than you think. I'm not talking about money. Like, always made me laugh. Like I knew my students were paying a significant amount of money to come to my classroom. They're paying to be there. I asked them to do an assignment that's going to grow, like help them grow, help them learn, and they're okay. They work on it. But I say, if we hit this goal by this date, I will buy you the pie. Oh my gosh. Like we had, and then this, like different cohorts are trying to outdo all of what's the record and how fast did anybody get this done before? Okay, we're gonna do it faster. Like some kind of goal, some kind of incentive, even if it's just hey, here's how we've been doing with defect prevention. Can you help us do better? And showing them how they're doing better. Like giving them that kind of incentive, giving yourself that kind of incentive is powerful. All right. What other ideas do you guys have, like for how you think a good onboarding can go, or how you think you could do, wow, I'm tripping over my tongue. How it could have gone better for you, like what you wish had gone differently, or what you would do differently. Any ideas out there?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ooh, that's really cool. So
I'm
hi,
not
AJ.
sure who you are. But
So this is actually Matthew Thornell. I was actually in one of your
Nice.
classes, AJ, about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So I actually had the opportunity for my onboarding to kind of be the first QA of my company.
Mhm.
And I took it upon myself to kind of schedule a one-on-one with each of my developers on my team, not only to get to know them and what they do, but also kind of be human with them. And I was wondering, like, how human not how human. This is my ADHD and my meds coming down at the moment.
I feel that.
But what's the best way or most effective way to introduce yourself to kind of the developers and the team? Because we see them every day at stand up, but to have a real connection for me to be like, hey, how can I make your job easier, or just be a team player? What's your best incentive there or approach?
So I've got some ideas and I'll throw like one of them out there, but if anybody else wants to jump in and contribute, that's fantastic. If you are in person, like if you are in person with your team, like staying present is huge. Like if there is a cubicle conversation going on that even if you don't love whatever they're talking about, like you could care less about Marvel movies, but a couple of them are talking about Marvel movies. If you just find something to, oh yeah, that was cool and here's why, like just seriously, silly little small talk can be a big thing. If you're not in person, video calls or maybe not video calls, screen shares even, just doing a voice conversation when you're sharing screens back and forth to say, hey, I think I might have found a problem, instead of sending a message, like instead of just slacking it or putting it in Teams or whatever, like getting that connection. Yes, you're reaching out to them about a potential problem, so you do have that, but you're still establishing a rapport. You're still getting one-on-one time that's not in stand-up with everybody else. And so that's a lot easier for you to go, so do you have any fun plans this weekend? You know, little stuff while you're waiting for a deployment or while you're waiting for an environment login to happen or whatever the case may be. Yeah, we got another idea. You did.
So another thing that I really like to emphasize is building those relationships before shit hits the fan. I've had a couple experiences in different companies where I got to work with the difficult developer, which some companies have one or many. It's going to happen at some point in your career. And if you build a little bit of a relationship with them beforehand, it makes those transitions, those hard moments, a lot easier. And so I do the ADHD hobby hoarding. I have all the hobbies, and the ones I don't have, my husband has, so I know a little bit about them. And I use that all the time because I can connect with someone and talk to them about something they like very easily, usually. I'm going to jinx myself the next time that happens. But like I will take people out to lunch and be like, hey, let's just go grab something. And then you get to chat, you get to hang out. It's not at work. All that pressure is off. And then when you do have a situation like that later on, it is significantly easier because you've already started that relationship on good terms.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Good ideas, Maddie? Like, did that answer your question, I guess I should say?
Yeah, it does. I think building relationships with developers early on is the best thing that you can do. It just solves so many problems later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our
And
conversations get easier when you know somebody. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And it builds the trust. Like the communication, like, hey, how can I make your job easier? How can I make this? Like, I'm your friend, not your enemy. And yeah, thank you.
You don't only see me when there's issues. Yeah. Makes a big difference. Yeah, Kevin.
Random thoughts. I'm going with the distracted thought concept here. So when you're trying to build up rapport, especially right now with Zoom, one thing that we were told with a group of QA engineers was leave the Zoom meeting on before and after the actual meeting, so that all of those conversations after, the after meeting conversations that take place can still be transmitted. So that's not just like a one-on-one Zoom. I don't know, maybe that's a little awkward when you're doing a one-on-one Zoom, but when you're in a team and then you're inviting somebody that's remote, turn on that Zoom meeting ahead of time and then just leave it on afterwards. And they can choose to stay and listen or not, but they get to hear some of that interactivity that they wouldn't have otherwise heard. And then Penny actually is stealing mine in her comment. So good ideas for onboarding.
Yeah.
And I'm just reiterating what you've said, but it's important to have some structure that I can see. I don't want it to be self-guided forever.
Oh
right?
gosh, no,
Which is a no that you put on the previous one. But I do want to know what the expected outcomes are as opposed to every line being delineated. I know in some professions that's important. In testing, I don't feel like that's important, and I think you're stating the same thing.
Yeah.
But I do want to know that this is going to last this long today, this long tomorrow, or you're going to be in training for 3 months. You know, whatever
Yeah.
the case would be.
What are the goals? How can I
Yeah,
push?
and then what are those goals that
Yeah.
I'm trying to accomplish during that time? Anyway, those are a couple of thoughts that I have.
No, I like that.
So we like to do, we call it the 30, 60, 90,
Mhm.
where we'll say the first 30 days, here's what we expect you to be able to do. In the next 30 days, here's what the next things, and the next 30 days, right? So 30, 60, 90, and usually we'll create something like, if we were using Jira, we'd make like an epic or a story or something that is like, here's so-and-so's onboarding for their 30, 60, 90, and we'd be able to measure that progress with whoever cares. So usually their manager, we usually have a point of contact who's not their manager as well, who's kind of assigned as their like buddy or their guide or their mentor, something like that. But kind of walking them through that, and after those 90 days, we can then do like almost like an assessment again as to, now that you've done all these things, you're kind of in the weeds now. Now what are we going to do for your next project, or here's the project you're actually going to be working on, or something like that, right? So having a plan as a manager for what these 30, 60, 90s are going to be is helpful, so then the person doesn't have to go in there and make up work for themselves or have to figure out things on their own, which is one of the big disadvantages when you have all those no-no-nos and bad onboarding processes, is I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in the first 30 days I'm here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, so I told you guys I do consulting work, right? And when I say consulting work, it has, unfortunately for now, it's been more along the lines of the contracting. Like, I'm hired out and my team is mostly hired out as staff augmentation, which has kind of been where QA's been sitting for a while, it seems like, more than people being willing to, oh yeah, you set up my framework and train my people, or anything like that, you know? We're actually getting, like my company is getting, more of that style of work offered to us, which is awesome. We're excited. I'm stealing your ideas because we are going to start hiring more junior people and training them up doing project work to where we can, after 6 months, say, yes, their resume might not look like they're mid-level. You've worked with us. You know where we're at. We're telling you they're mid-level. They've done work for clients who are satisfied. And then they could be staff augmentation, more project work, whatever. Everybody, it's a win-win. We're helping grow people and we're helping grow us. And I'm stoked for it. Our team's going around, okay, which, is it dev? Is it project management? Is it, you know, who should be the ones demoing this for the company? I'm like, please, I love training. Like, let me do this. So I'm stealing your ideas too, because they're good. So thank you. This is all great stuff. Like and this is stuff that we can do for ourselves too. Like having a 30, 60, 90, just from right now, if you're like feeling kind of in the doldrums, is like literally the only word that's coming to my head right now. Like if you're in a boring stretch, like things just aren't really working or moving for you, keep it up. Find a way to give yourself a 30, 60, 90 to motivate yourself. And I actually am getting way ahead of myself because we're going to talk about a couple more things, and I'm realizing we're getting close to 7. So I'll try and be good. So, okay, told you I tangent like mad, but we already covered a lot of stuff. So the rest of it is just highlighting differences more than anything else. So if you got somebody who's done QA work before, but they're new to your team, new to your organization, it can be tempting to assume that they know everything that they should do. You're talking about onboarding feedback, like for how long it took to get access. My client right now, it took them a week to get me access to the test environment. And I'm a remote contractor. So I'm basically sitting at my desk reading through some of the documentation, which they had hardly any. I'm going to stand-ups, and otherwise I'm like reading books and playing video games because there's literally nothing that they've given me. This is your point of contact. He'll tell you what to do. Hey, what should I do? We'll give you access tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to go practice this, and then I'm going to chill out. You know, it's boring. It's hard, but I knew to expect it, so that helped. That said, I was also able to help move things along for some other contractors coming onto my client and help get things going a lot faster. So we had less people going crazy. You'll run into a lot of problems when you're jumping onto a team. These are just a few, you know, and everybody's too busy to get things done, get you access, get you resources, resources don't exist, whatever the case might be. There's lots of problems when you're joining in and onto a new team, or when you're hiring somebody that, or training someone is being hired to your team that you should be aware of. So kind of the do's and don'ts, and then let's open it up again so we don't have like 3 separate conversations about the same thing, because we've done that and I like that, but we don't have time. So avoid easing people in. It can be really, really tempting. Hey, you're brand new. I know you got to get through your onboarding. So here's this like really easy set of work to do. Don't do that. Like, let them know exactly from the get-go what's expected of them. Get them, get them invited to your meetings, but don't wait for stand-up if there's a problem. Don't wait for stand-up to say, hey, I saw you were working on this, or you told me you were working on this, how'd it go? Don't wait for that. Like, ask them right away. Don't assume understanding. This is one of my favorite quotes from a fantasy novel ever. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and umption. Jim Butcher is fantastic. If you haven't read the Dresden Files, it's fun. Told you, nerd ADHD. All right, don't do those things. Do this. And I think I remember everything I put there, but I'm going to minimize my video. Okay, yes, I did remember what I put there. All right, give them the context, give them the why, especially for people who are existing, like experienced QAs. Let them know why they should care about their product. Like, they understand and can absorb context a lot faster than a brand new hire. Give that to them, and seriously, half of your other problems are probably gone. Like, if you think about it for yourself, if you can see your overall product and why your piece matters, it's a whole lot easier to be smart about what should I do next. Well, this is going to make an impact. Load them up and check on them. Kind of already talked about that. Ask them for feedback and then get feedback from them. Okay. Now, opening it up to you guys. Good experiences, bad experiences, things you want to do in the future. What do you guys think about going on to a new company? Like, what shouldn't it or should that look like? Told you, sometimes I'm not afraid of awkward silence. Participation awards.
I had a
So
quick comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just something that my company did that I thought was fabulous and I hadn't seen done in this manner before was during onboarding, they set up one-to-ones on a fairly frequent basis, like every other day, every couple of days, and then tapered it off. And now they're shorter and even farther apart. So we still have them. But I thought that was kind of brilliant because then you always have an opportunity to check in, and it is a set thing that you don't miss.
Yeah, I think that's especially important where so many people are working remote now. Like, but I mean, it was important when we're face to face because there's still distractions, but especially remote. No, thanks, Penny. That was great. Because we need that scheduled time, especially because if we randomly drop in on a new hire who doesn't know to expect it, like if they know to expect that you're that kind of person who might just poke their head in at any point, once you build that rapport, keep it up, go for it. But if they don't know you yet, that might be really stressful. Or there's some people for whom that just is always going to be stressful, and we need to be cognizant of that. But having some kind of regular check-in and feedback is key, and it's just way too easy to lose sight of that. So whether you're the only one that sees the reminder, or it's a set meeting, like that's fantastic. Thanks, Penny. All right. Any other thoughts? What's up?
So
yeah,
a thought that I have that kind of twisting this, trying to think about it from the other perspective. So we're thinking about how do we cultivate this new hire or this freshie. I just think about it, how would I want to be treated? And then coming up with that list of stuff that I would want to know. And as I do that, hopefully I'm creating a good experience for them, but also we're showing very clearly that a lot of companies don't have an onboarding experience, or a new team doesn't have an onboarding experience. But if I come to that team and say, these are the things that I need, then I just created a much better experience for myself rather than being dependent on others.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and to piggyback on what you said earlier, that's not just a better experience for you, it's a better experience for your organization You get a lot more buy-in for when you ask for more things or when you have more ideas. I honestly, I convinced my client that I'm rebuilding their entire UI automation framework because I kept coming with ideas and saying, this is a good thing, and I'll show you why. You didn't ask me to do this, but I'm showing you why. Counts for a ton, even no matter what level of experience you're at. So thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Okay. Any other thoughts? I'll let it go for just a second.
Maddie here. Hello.
All righty.
So I'm actually starting a brand new job this next Monday at Warner
Congrats.
Enterprise. Thank you. And one of the things that I asked for, as the manager there asked me if there's anything that you want at the beginning. So he was talking about laptops and everything, but one of the biggest things I wanted was the guy I can reach out to who knows the product. So kind of the product expert. The last thing that I want to do is kind of exploratory test and then build this opinion. And now I've written a bug that was actually intended functionality. So for me to be able to go to this guy and be like, hey, is this a bug? Is this, or is this intended functionality? I think that's awesome. So one of my onboarding experiences from now on, if I ever lead a team or anything, is for new QAs to be given that resource to that person that they can ask, hey, is this intended? Is this what it's supposed to do? Is this how the software is supposed to work? So
no, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, because ideally everyone on the team should be patient and understanding, but we know that's not always how it goes. So if the incumbents can tell the new people, okay, these are the quote unquote safe, or these are the more patient people to go ask these questions to, that's probably going to help a ton. That's a great one, Maddie. Cool. Thank you. All right, so more good ideas, except that they're exactly the same, because it really is the same, whether you're brand new or come in, or whether you're talking about someone who's brand new to QA or just to your team. All right, now for us, those of us who have been doing this a little bit longer, do you need a fresh perspective? This honestly is why I volunteered to rewrite my client's framework. They did not hire me into that kind of position, and technically they're still not paying for me in that kind of position. I don't care because it's fun and I like it, and I'm still getting paid enough. That does make a difference. But I needed a fresh perspective, and I was tired of dealing with the same old, same old. So I came up with some stuff that I thought would be interesting for me, and it paid off. It paid off in spades. So many idioms about this stuff. Like, I like quotes, or I like having something on a slide, and I'm like, there's too many good ones. I'm not picking one. Like, pick your poison here. There's so many ways for us to get distracted. And here's a distraction for you. Oh, look, a chicken. I didn't even know they had t-shirts that said, oh, look, a chicken. For me, it was just a family joke, because we'd literally be driving down, like with my grandpa in the car, and we'd be in the middle of a conversation and he'd drop everything. Oh, look, a chicken. Like every time we went by the same person's house, it's like there was a chicken there last time, but there's a chicken there now. Anyway, distractions, they're everywhere. And it's so easy for us to lose sight of what's important or what's going to keep us motivated, because what's important and what keeps us motivated aren't always the same thing. But the KPI or whatever it is that we have to deliver, we get so zeroed in on the nuts and bolts that sometimes we forget why we're there or why we care. Why did you pick QA? Why did you stay in QA? For me, I didn't pick QA. I picked QA to get out of a crappy tech support job. I stayed with QA because at first I stayed because I got a promotion and I got paid more money and I didn't have to go look for a job. But then I kept staying because I got the chance to train people. I got the chance to try different tools. I got the chance to step outside the box, and I loved it. And it was a lot less stressful than I was seeing some of my friends' jobs. At least it felt that way to me. And that's kind of the important thing. It's my job. So enough is enough if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you're feeling like you're doing the same thing every day. If you have the ISTQB certification, like foundational level, Shame on you if you don't remember what this is. But if you haven't, or if you know it, or if you've heard of the pesticide paradox, you know it's that when you're doing the same thing over and over, when you're testing the same way, you are only going to find the same bugs. So at the end of the day, mixing it up is not just good for you, it's good for the company. You have to change things up. You have to try new things, because otherwise you're getting stagnant. Yes, it looks like you're doing better because you're finding less bugs. Well, yeah, because you're testing the same thing. So mix it up. Like, how do you do that? That's a personal question, because everybody, that's going to be different. Like, I've got my ideas, but before we get there, just a couple more minutes. Like, how do you guys want to do that? Like, if you find yourself in that situation, what do you do to find excitement again?
You should attend QA at the point to get a different perspective.
Oh yeah. I should actually, you stealing my thunder. That's like one of my bullets up here. It really is. Plus, you're missing out on the pie. I'm really sorry for you. Like, I seriously am if you're not here. Okay. All right. I know it's 7 o'clock. People are tired, food comas, or maybe just fell asleep in their pajamas with their camera turned off. But learn a new process. Pick up a new tool. Like, mix it up. Do something new. Might not be a great idea. It might not be the perfect fit, but it's exciting and it's engaging. And at the end of the day, that is going to be more valuable. Especially, frankly, if you're working in a remote environment, take advantage of that. Almost everybody, their productivity went way up working remote versus working in the office. And I can almost guarantee that for those same people, their numbers of hours actually spent physically pointing and clicking and doing things probably went a little bit down. But productivity is still up. Find something that engages you and excites you. It will make you a better employee. I was gonna say a better person, but I guess that works too. Kind of does. All right. Ask your coworkers. We had a couple of people talk about this. What are the pain points that they're running into? Your devs, how can I help you? Hey, I'm bugging you. I can tell that me coming to you with this question bugs you. You're saying it doesn't, I can tell. Whatever. How can I bother you less? If you had your ideal QA interaction, what would that look like? Just talk to them, figure it out. Spend some time with the community. Here at QA at the Point, on the Slack channel, there's lots of discussion boards and Slack channels for the Ministry of Testing too. There's Medium, there's Quora, there's Reddit. I posted the link to the Death Star, man, I am totally forgetting the title of it, but the retrospective, basically, of how bad QA costs the Empire, what is it, 2.2 million Imperial lives, something like that. It's funny, we laugh, it's kind of true. It's a little wordy because it was also an advertisement pitch at the end of the day, but it was a fun read. And it got me a little more excited about some things that I'm doing. So whatever it is, go look around, go look for ideas. If you get excited, even if you're mildly interested, give it a shot. Maybe it won't be for you. BDD testing is not my favorite thing, but it kept me engaged and I tried it out and I learned a lot of new things that have kept on helping me. BDD is great for some of my clients and I will happily work on that for them, even if it's not my favorite. But try something, figure it out. So if this is not a good excuse, if you've got something that you want to try, don't say, I don't have time to do it. Try to come up with a way to find the time or commit to the time. We'll skip through a lot of this stuff. Like, there's every argument that you've got, there's a counter argument. Everything that you can come up with, it's a reason for you not to re-engage. There are better reasons for why you should make it work. So remember why you're in QA. And if you don't know your impact on your team, if you don't know who you're helping or your new hires don't know, fix that. Because that's really why we do it. And it's not, our customers are not just the people buying our software. Our customers are our teammates, they're our tech support teams. Our customers, like, it's any of our stakeholders. So know how you're making their lives better, and you can start finding a little more pride in what you're doing. All right, so find your passion. And I'm just gonna go all the way here, because my passion and one of the fun things that I can think about, QA could have saved the Death Star. Like, that's why I enjoy QA. We can do some pretty darn awesome things and save some great work. So thanks for coming by. I really don't know how long over you're willing for me to go, so I'm happy to answer questions or not. But you also have my email address here on the slide. Hit me up anytime you need anything. And I'm serious. Like Maddie, some of the other QA at STG and Dev Mountain will tell you. You message me at 11:30 at night, I'm probably going to message you back. Okay? Hit me up. So thank you.